And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to Open Connection. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. Family engagement describes a situation in which families and teachers share the responsibility to help students reach their academic goals. It happens when families commit to making their children's education a priority. On today's Open Connection, we open our archives to bring you this story from 1991.
Oh, that looks lovely. And you've got your eyes? And where's the blowhole?
Nancy Bowes started teaching 4 years ago. She's taught the last 2 years here at Thornhill Primary.
I like the way Jessica's rolling hers. It'll be smooth.
Bowes teaches 23 students. They're at the Year 3 level.
Robert, I'm talking to you.
Being an educator is a tough job with a heavy workload. Teaching this class keeps Bowes very busy. Luckily, she gets some help a few times a week. Parents volunteer, doing what they can when they can.
When they come into the classroom, I try to take a few minutes before they start working with the children what the specific tasks are. For example, if they come in and tape their children reading, I talk to them for a few minutes and tell them how to do the particular activity and what I expect.
Michelle Gardner has 2 children attending Thornhill Primary. She spends about 2.5 hours a week in the classroom.
I help them with their reading, or I read to them, or we do like projects that they're doing at that time, what they're doing, or in PE. Lots of things, cooking or baking something different all the time.
Darlene Skinner is another mother who volunteers her time. Her daughter Alicia is in this class. Darlene finds it very rewarding being with her daughter at school.
I'm fortunate because I can see what my child is doing in class, how they're interacting with other children, who their friends are. You get to know the whole class.
Michelle and Darlene are full-time moms. Other parents have jobs outside the home, and sometimes it's hard for them to be at school.
Even though it seems people have less time on their hands these days, more and more moms and dads are helping out in the classroom. Parent involvement has increased substantially over the last couple of years.
British Columbia's education system is undergoing dramatic changes. The Year 2000 program has many parents perplexed. Concerns vary from dual entry kindergarten to ungraded primary.
Parents have all sorts of roles.
Educators are encouraging parents to be a part of their children's learning.
Because we want them to, first of all, see what the children are doing and to help facilitate the new program, but also to become aware of what's expected with children.
It's important for parents to be part of their children's education so that they're aware of what their children are learning at school, and then they can foster and feed on that at home as well.
The 2 helpers in this class need no convincing.
I like working with the children. They're really fun to work with, and it is a good time. And you help in different, things they're working on, whatever time of the year. You can work on the special projects that they might be involved in.
I like to see what the kids are doing and how they're getting along and stuff. That's benefits for me.
And while the parent gains a lot, so does the teacher.
We have classes of 20 to 25 children, and it's really wonderful to have another person in there to help you deal with the children and address the children's needs.
Bowes enjoys having parents in the classroom. She says it's nice to have a helping hand. It makes her job much easier.
It takes the role of having just one adult in the classroom off me, the emphasis off me, and it enables children to work with other adults.
And for the kids, it's not only nice to see a familiar face, but it's a time when an adult experiences a kid's world.
I like it a lot because every time we have field trips, she can drive and stuff, and she helps us make lots of crafts.
What do you think about having another mom or dad come into the classroom?
That's okay.
How come?
We get to help you and stuff.
It's really a special treat to have their parent come in and take part in their special time at school. School is their place, and it's really nice to have parents come in and spend some time with the children in their place.
You see them at home and it's in a different atmosphere, and you see them at school and it's nice to know how they react with other children and with the teacher.
Darlene and Michelle have been helping in the classroom for 2 years. They plan to continue spending time at school. Bose looks forward to that, and she expects to meet many more parents as she continues her teaching career.
I have the attitude of it's an open classroom, and they can come in any time. Parents feel comfortable to do that.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. A youth council is an entity composed of young people that serves as an advisory to government or donor agencies. Most often, its role to identify priorities, craft policies, and help to contribute the implementation of these policies through public services. Let us return to the archives as Kathy Brooks tells us about the BC Youth Council.
The BC Youth Advisory Council was formed in 1985 to provide a link between young people and the government. The latest Northwest members are both grade 12 students at Caledonia High School in Terrace. Jason Krause is chairman of the school grad committee. Kaneen Ose-Tutu is president of the student council. The pair were appointed to the provincial council last fall.
We had a whole bunch of things we want to tackle. We're very ambitious, and there's a lot of problems that we want to look at. And we kind of narrowed our scope and looked at 3 main issues, being youth crime, national unity, which is involving, at first we wanted to do national unity, try and unify the entire Canada, very ambitious. And we realized that's just too broad of a scope, so we kind of narrowed it down to provincial unity. And what we're concentrating on is mainly tackling the problem of racism and just basically trying to create more understanding. And the approach we're going to take with that is set up probably try to set up a student exchange between, like, say, a student from a Native community to a East Indian community, to maybe a Chinese community, and just try and create more interaction and understanding. That's our second thing, and probably our third thing is awareness, which is what we're really trying to create, let people know what the council is all about, and just know that we're here and that we do exist and we do have a voice.
Council members have also discussed differences in problems facing urban versus rural youths. Ose-Tutu has found many similarities between the concerns of his peers in the Northwest and those in other non-urban areas of BC, such as the Kootenays.
Yeah, a lot. Like, there's, on weekends particularly, there's not a lot to do, whereas, say, you're in Vancouver, there's teen nightclubs and that type of thing, like a lot of recreational activities that are available to them that we don't often have, and so it makes it kind of tough for us.
How about the educational thing? We hear that that there's a lower participation in post-secondary education by young people from the north. How big a concern is that?
I think that's a really big concern because myself, just being on the council, I've learned so much about just opportunities that are out there for all youth, and it seems that all the information seems to be concentrated on the Vancouver Lower Mainland area and doesn't reach the youth out here. And it's just amazing, I just sit here and thinking, if I wasn't on this council, for instance, there'd be so many opportunities I wouldn't know about, such as, scholarships and bursaries and that type of thing. And it's amazing what's available, but that so little that we know.
Ose-Tutu believes some of the opportunities missing in the North account for increased problems such as alcohol and drug abuse and teen pregnancies.
Now, what are you doing to try to get more regional input into this council?
Each region is supposed to have a regional committee, and that's just, on the regional committee will be representatives of all types of youth in the region. That could be adults who work with youth or youth, just youth. Anyways, and what we're trying to do right now is trying to put one together. Since there's never been a a regional committee in our region. So basically what we do is contact anybody that has any dealings with youth and try and get them to suggest people, like schools, maybe employers, anybody, counselors of some sort, and even mayor or anybody who has any contact with youth. And we contact them, and from there we get suggestions. Or if anybody is interested, they could contact either Keneen or I.
How do you find the sort of the concerns of young people as compared to, you know, the older people that often have more influence on government? What kinds of differences do you see in those concerns? Are they different areas? Or?
I think everybody's concerned about the same issues, but I think going about solving them is different. Like like adults are concerned about kids going around at night and just not doing anything and say drinking or something, and they say, oh well, we'll put them in their houses or something or that. Worse, on the other hand, the youth are saying, well, why don't you have something for us to do? And they're making, like, why don't you suggest something that we could do or have something available for us? And I think it's that, just basically the approach of solving them.
Both Kraus and Osei Tutu have learned a lot about government since they joined the Youth Council. They've met twice with the full council and talked with top bureaucrats and a couple of cabinet ministers.
Yeah, one surprise, I think, is that there are so many, quote, advisory councils around, and I think that everybody is trying to be heard. And I think that in order to be heard yourself, you have to have a strong voice, and I guess that's the main thing. I learned that you gotta really push in order if you want anything to get done.
To get some things done, there are grants available to young people and organizations that assist young people. A Youth Council committee oversees the program. In the past, it's provided support to Project Squeeze in Terrace. That project used theater to explore and raise awareness about alcohol abuse. Kraus and Osei Tutu say their peers in school are skeptical about the impact the Youth Council might have on government, but they hope to change that. They see commitment and a common interest among their colleagues on the council.
I think just a common desire to make sure that the voice of the youth are heard, and just I guess a passion to do what we can to help out, you know, because there's so much that we can do, you know, that youth can do, you know, to change countries, change policies, you know, that's what we're all about.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to Open Connection. Once every 5 years, the Census of Population provides a detailed and comprehensive statistical portrait of Canada that is vital to our country. Let us return to the archives to discover why the Census of Population is an essential tool for understanding how Canada is changing over time.
It hasn't happened since 1986, but as usual, every 5 years, Canadians will be subject to a national census. Statistics Canada will officially hold Census Day on June 4th, although Canadians should receive their official questionnaires in the last week of May. If you, as many Canadians do, think that being part of a census means you're another number in a population figure, well, think again.
One of the most important reasons we encourage people to participate is that the census population counts are used to determine transfer payments from the federal government to the provincial government. And these are monies that are intended for post-secondary education, health care, and social services. And we've estimated that for every individual that is not counted in the census, the province of British Columbia loses a minimum of $600 a year. So it's very important that people participate for that reason alone.
Provincial grants, of course, are an offshoot of that very thing. They would be affected as well, I would assume.
That's right. Then again, the province uses our population counts to determine grants to the various municipalities throughout the province.
And data. I guess in this day and age with the computer realm as it is in the 1990s, all data is acquired through the census, and as a result, without accurate information given at the source, we would never get that down the line.
That's right. The census is really the only source of small area data, as we call it, that communities like Terrace, Kitimat, Prince Rupert can use in their planning for meeting the needs of the people in their communities.
Population and other pertinent figures in northwestern British Columbia from the 1986 census may be somewhat misleading. There are many in this area that feel those figures do not give an accurate assessment of the region. The reason from their perspective is that the Native community was not fully involved. Stats Canada acknowledges that concern and has done something about it for the upcoming census.
Well, we have had some difficulty in the past, including all Native people. The vast majority of them do readily participate. Some have had some difficulties with the census. We now have what's called a Native Liaison Program that is specifically geared towards the Native community. We have people meeting with all the bands and tribal councils throughout the province, talking about the value of data for their own initiatives, their own programs.
Perhaps the most glaring problem Stats Canada has with an endeavor like this is getting the average Canadian citizen to take it seriously. Fitzpatrick informs us that's where communication comes in.
It's really getting across how important the census is. I think most people readily participate and probably don't think too much about it, but in fact there's some very important reasons why we carry out a census, and it's my job to ensure that they understand the value of the data.
Do you think Canadians and people in British Columbia as a whole are improving their attitude towards this type of thing?
Well, as I say, it's a process whereby we educate people on the value. Again, the vast majority of Canadians participate readily with the census. We have minimal difficulty, in fact, in getting people to participate in the census. There are some people who question it and wonder why we take it in the first place. So by telling them how important the data is, that it's used for transfer payment purposes, that it is the only source of information on our population, changes in social conditions in our population. We look upon the census as taking a snapshot of the population at one point in time. So like any snapshot, it's not complete unless we have everybody included in it. The data is used to make all kinds of decisions that affect everyone's lives. So it's important that we do have everyone in so that in fact that snapshot is accurate.
Communication is one thing Stats Canada must battle, but they also have concerns with the presentation of the census. This year, as in other undertakings, the census takes place in the form of question and answer.
There are two questionnaires, what we call the short form and the long form. 4 out of 5 households receive the short form. It's 9 questions, basic demographic information, age, sex, marital status, and mother tongue. The 5th household gets what we call the long questionnaire, and it covers far more extensive information on labor force activity, education, mobility, some housing questions, ethnic origin, income, those sorts of things. The questionnaires will be dropped off at households starting May 27th. We ask people to complete them as of their situation on June 4th and to mail them back to us immediately.
And finally, should people in the Northwest be any more concerned with an accurate census than anywhere else in the country? The answer is maybe so. Between growth in population and in business, both private and public, this part of the province is in a period of change.
That's actually a very important reason to participate in the census, because things are changing so fast. And all areas of Canada are changing, and as you mentioned, the Northwest here is changing considerably, people moving here. Without us taking a measure every 5 years, we really wouldn't have a handle on the current situation and current issues that really need to be addressed. Things like the family structure, how is that changing? Are lone parent families increasing? The income level of families with children and whether or not that's changing. There are all kinds of reasons why we take a census, as I say, and it's so important that people do participate.
Open Connection will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK-TV studios, this is Open Connection with your host, Robert Pictou.
Located 75 kilometers southeast of Kitimat, Kemano was built to serve as hydroelectric power station to provide energy for Elcan to smelt aluminum from its ore. In this final segment of Open Connection, we return to the archives to bring you this 1991 update of the Kemano Power Station.
Underground mining operations for the new powerhouse extension and transformer gallery are well underway. Since mid-September, contractor PCL Northern have been completing preliminary work necessary for this major drill and blast operation. The tail race and air supply tunnels now connect with the excavation. In the first bench, a layer of rock has been blasted and removed. The object of this operation is to carve 2 huge chambers into the heart of the mountain. The smaller will become a new transformer gallery. The larger chamber will become another chamber of the existing Kemano powerhouse. Essentially, they are being excavated in the same manner. Under previous contracts, the roof arches of these chambers were excavated as well as the tail race, electrical, and air supply tunnels, providing access to the chambers. Space for the number 9 generator unit was excavated in the 50s during construction of the existing powerhouse. When the powerhouse extension is complete, 4 new generators will be installed to complement the 8 in the existing powerhouse. Project field engineer Rod Moore indicates one of the primary concerns is the impact of blasting the powerhouse next door. Uncontrolled shock waves could disrupt the supply of power to the Alcan smelter in Kitimat and to BC Hydro.
And our drill and blasting operations is creating minor earthquakes, sending shock waves into the control room, which shake the equipment. To control the size of these shock waves, the quantity of explosives set off at any one time is strictly controlled. This is done by loading 35 to 45 holes in a blast and then connecting the powder in the holes with millisecond delays, actually creating a series of small individual blasts which occur over a period of 2 to 3 seconds. This generates a series of mini shock waves instead of one major bump. To facilitate removal of the shot rock from the powerhouse excavation, PCL Northern has excavated 2 muck raises up from the tail race tunnels for Unit 10 and Unit 12. The first bench below the excavation completed under the previous contract, Foundation Nabasco, was taken out with scoop trams through the construction access and air supply tunnels. The balance of the second bench will be excavated with scoop trams hauling the shot rock to and dumping it down the Unit 12 muck raise. During the excavation of powerhouse benches 3 through 7, the shot rock will be dumped down both the Unit 10 and 12 muck raises. This way, the mucking cycle does not have to be completed prior to resuming drilling and blast operations. Also, the tail race tunnel is larger and will permit access for the larger trucks.
The use of larger trucks resulting from the separation of mucking and drilling operations is more efficient. As well, separate operations help control dust in the mining areas. PCL Northern has mobilized a fleet of new equipment for this job and is making good progress. They anticipate no problem in completing excavation by late March or early April of this year. At that point, they will begin pouring concrete for the powerhouse extension and penstocks.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Open Connection. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but a connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.